Hi, and welcome to Flipbook Animation with Shimmy. My name is Dee Thelza from the Richmond Public Library. So we are going to use the Shimmy animation program, which is on the web and is free to use for everyone, to create our own animations, our own flipbook style animations. And so first things first, what's an animation? So an animation is when we take a series of pictures that each change a little bit, and by playing them together very fast, it creates the illusion of motion. And that is how all animation and video works. So flipbook style animation is based on making little flipbooks, which you can flip through. I'm going to see if I can do this on camera. It's a little tricky. And this one is only about 7 pages long. And so it goes from a serious face gradually to a smiling face. And it's actually kind of tricky to get a flipbook to have a good illusion. And so we're going to simplify things a little bit. Here's another one that is supposed to be a bouncing ball. Yeah. All right. Anyways, it's hard to get a flipbook to show up on video. So we're going to cheat a little and use software instead of paper and pens. Here we are in Shimmy. When you so open up in a different window or tab, go ahead and open Shimmy up. It's at launchpad.yourlibrary.ca/Shimmy, and I'll put a link in the description of this video. All right, so Shimmy is software developed by the Richmond Public Library and by me. And so if you have any problems or issues with it, you can leave a comment and I will try and address those. And yeah, so we've made this to be the easiest possible animation tool that we can. So if you do have trouble with it, I definitely want to hear about it, and I'll try and address it. When you first open Shimmy, you'll see this window that says About Shimmy, and it says it's a simple, sketch-based animation tool for flipbook-style animations. So simple is it's not Photoshop. We're not trying to add every tool in the world. We're trying to keep it, give you enough tools to make interesting animations while making it really easy to use. Sketch-based means it's not going to help you, doesn't have any tools to help you draw perfect rectangles or perfect circles or do fills. There's no, not a lot of tools that a lot of other drawing programs have. It's intended to be something very similar to what you would get if you were drawing with pencils or markers or a pen. It's an animation tool, so rather than just drawing a single frame, like a single piece of paper, it is designed to help you make a series of pictures that when run together as if, that's the flipbook style, as if you were flipping through the pages of them very quickly. So, and then when you're done, you can save them as an animated GIF or a PNG with all the images or as an SVG file, which you can then reload to work on later. Okay, that's about Shimmy. Things it's not good for. Shimmy is not a tool, not a high-end drawing program. There are lots of existing programs out there for doing drawing with a lot more tools. It is not for making Disney-style animation. It's not for 3D, but it is for anything that you could draw with a pen and or pencils, and it does give you some variation on those. Okay, so with that out of the way, what Shimmy is for, what it's not for. So make sure you have a copy of Shimmy open in a tab or a window, and let's try making that animation that I showed you on the flipbook a few moments ago. And we're going to do a face that is not smiling and try and animate it to smile. So what do we need? So all of the default settings here for Shimmy should be fine. I'm going to make the pen size larger so it shows up better on video. You can do that, but you don't have to. We're going to go through all of these tools through the course of these videos, but for now, let's focus on learning by doing. So I'm gonna start by drawing a circle for the face. Your faces can be different. They can be more real. They can be more sketchy. However you draw a face is fine. Just for now, don't draw a mouth. Anything else that you want, if you want to add ears, nose, everything, that's fine. But don't draw your mouth yet. Once you have your basic face without a mouth, we are going to make a whole bunch of copies of it. And then we're going to fill in the mouth on those copies, and that's where the animation of the smile is going to be. So if you don't see a button that says copy, make sure that your frames window is showing. So these windows can be open and closed to get out of the way, to give you more room to draw. And the buttons are big because I want this to be usable on a tablet or a phone. Phones don't give you a lot of drawing room, but it should still work. All right, so if you see the copy button, then go ahead and click copy a bunch of times. I'm gonna make 20 frames. I probably won't use all of them, but I can go and delete any of the ones I don't use. All right, so now I've clicked copy a bunch of times. I see frame here, it says 20 of 20. So I'm on the last frame of 20, and they're all exactly alike. So if I say back, which goes through the frames, nothing really changes. I am going to go to the first, and now it says frame 1 of 20. That's what I want. All right, so once you've got there, and feel free to pause and take your time to getting to the same point where you have one face duplicated 20 times on different frames. Now, I'm going to draw an unsmiling mouth. So maybe a little bit frowny. Doesn't have to be, but that's where I'm going to start from. As long as it doesn't have a smile. Okay, so on the first frame, I have drawn an unsmiling mouth. Now, I am going to go to the next frame. And now I still see that mouth that I just drew, even though it was on the first frame. But I see it kind of grayed out. It's not as dark. And the reason for that is I have this onion skin checked. So if I turn that off, the mouth disappears. And what it does is it shows me the previous frame dimly, kind of as if the paper that I'm drawing on was a little bit transparent, and I could see the paper below it. And that's actually how animators used to work when they were drawing these by hand. And it's useful because then I have that mouth that I drew in the first frame as a guide, so that I can see where to put my next mouth, and so I can make sure that I'm only changing it a little bit. So I'm going to leave the onion skin checked pretty much anytime I'm doing animation. All right, so now I'm going to draw another mouth that is slightly closer to a smile. Still a little bit downturned, but getting there. And now I'm going to keep doing that. So once you've got your mouth drawn on the second frame, click next again. You should be now on frame 3 of 20. This time I'm going to just do a line across. If you do a line that you don't like, if maybe I accidentally put that, you can also click undo, and that'll take the last line, and you can keep doing it to take any other lines. And each frame has its own undo stack. So, all right, so I've got that line, and now I'm going to start turning up the corners of the mouth just a little. All right, starting to get there. So I'm going to keep clicking next. Keep drawing it a little bit more smiling each time. But just tiny, tiny changes. So when we play it back, we're gonna see it kind of grow into a smile. And the smaller the changes, undo that. The smaller the changes you do in each particular frame, the more smooth your animation can be. So if you do big changes, you can get the animation done in a very few frames, but it's going to look a little jerky. And that's okay. I mean, that's also a legitimate style. You can do it that way. I think my smile is getting wider each time. Maybe that's okay. I'm going to try and bring it in here. There. It's getting to be a pretty big smile now. And so what I'm going to concentrate now on is opening the mouth a little. All right. And yeah. What am I at? I'm at 13 of 20. Getting to my quota. Oops. And one of the biggest requests for Shimmy has been an eraser tool. And I haven't done that yet, but I am working on it. So these undo buttons, if they seem a little different when you pull up Shimmy next time, I do make changes to the program from time to time based on feedback. And so undo is going to become a little simpler, and there will be an eraser very soon. I've almost finished that work. All right, and that is fully open. If I turn off onion skinning, you see the big smile there. All right, so I'm at frame 17 of 20. Go ahead and make sure you've finished making your character smile, however many frames that requires. If you need more frames, then when you get to the last one, before you draw a mouth, just hit copy a few more times, and then you can get more frames to draw into if you need more than 20. If you need fewer than 20, as I did, you can. I'm going to go to the last frame. I'm on 20 of 20. You can hit the delete button. And I delete, and there I am on the smile. And I'm now on 17 of 17. So I just have frames where I've added a mouth. And now, once you get to that point, and you've done all the frames to get it from not smiling here on the first frame to fully smiling here on the last frame, and all the frames in between, we're going to open the Animate menu. The Animate menu has this important play button. So there we go. Big smile. Awesome. Let's go on to the next steps. All right. So we've got our animation. And the next thing we need to do is, what do we do with the animation? How do we share it? How do we save it to work on later? How do we show it to our friends? So for that, we're going to look at the File menu. So the File menu is usually collapsed to get out of the way while we're drawing. So go ahead and click on that, and it should open up these buttons of New, Load, Save, and then Save as GIF, Save as PNG. And some people pronounce it Save as GIF, which is technically maybe more correct because the person who created it calls it that. Don't click New yet, that will erase what we've done. But let's go ahead and click on Save. Now Save gives us an opportunity to name our file, so I'm going to just call it Smiling Face. Click OK. And then it, depending what browser you're in, it may do different things. I'm going to go ahead and say Save File, do this automatically, and there we go. Now I'm going to look in my Downloads folder, and there is smilingface.svg. And now SVG is a standard file format. It stands for scalable vector graphics. Yes, I can remember this. Scalable vector graphics, which scalable means they can size up and down, and we'll actually use that later on. So you could edit this in any program that understands SVG, but it would be a little confusing because all of the frames would be stacked up, and you can do a lot in an SVG editing program that if you try to reload it back into Shimmy, Shimmy would get confused. But we can load that file back into Shimmy and keep editing. It's got all of our frames and it's got all of the details of our drawing. So next thing is we're going to save it as an animated GIF so we can post it to a sharing site, or we can just show it to our friends, show it to our grandma, anything we want to do with that. So I'll click Save as GIF. Now, browsers don't let you open pop-ups generally, although it did. And click again on Save File and do this automatically. And let's see. Looks like that worked despite the error message. You may need to tell it to be able to open. Yep. And so there is, here it's just called animation GIF. It doesn't actually ask us for a name. So each one of the ones you open up will be a separate animation, animation.gif. So let's see if I open it with photos, does it show me the animation? No. So let's go ahead and open it up with Firefox. Any browser should do. Okay, I don't actually see Firefox as an option. I'll say Internet Explorer. And there we go, there's our animation. Anything that can open an animated GIF should be able to show it to you. Cool, so the other option, which is not maybe as useful for what we're doing, but could be if you wanted to, for instance, if you were creating a game in like Scratch, which is a separate topic that will be, I've got a presentation starting with the library in about a month. But if you wanted to save all of the frames as images, you could do something where you create a sprite in a game. Let's just see what it looks like. Go ahead and click Save as PNG. Again, we get this dialog and say Save. And go over here, and there we go. So now image PNG. Photos still doesn't. Okay, part of it is because it's transparent, and we only see the black lines, and if the background of the program is dark, we can't see it very well. So again, I'm going to try opening with, okay, this time it lets me open in Chrome. Let's try that. And, oh no, it's still got a dark background. Yeah, so there, I don't know if you can make that out, but it's all of our images stacked on top of each other. So it's, every frame gets its own piece of the image. It shows them all at once. We really need a white background to be able to see that. I'm going to try one more time. And let's open with, I just had it. There we go. No, that also doesn't give me Firefox as an option. All right. Anyways, as you can see, you can save it as a GIF. You can save it as a PNG. Both of the GIFs don't support transparency, so it saves the background color. Whereas when we do a PNG or the SVG, the background is transparent, and so we can layer it over other things. In addition to saving it, we can also load it. There's one more way that we save, and we don't have to do anything. We don't even need the file menu, which is that our current animation is always saved in the browser. So if I reload this page, I just go up here and hit return, and it reloads everything. It loads my animation. I can play it, I can edit it, I can keep going, keep working on it. If you go to a different browser or a different computer, it won't be there. It's just on this browser, on this computer, it's saved for you automatically. And that way, if anything crashes or if you have any problems, if the power goes out and your computer shuts off, it should always be there. In addition, so you basically, every time you come into Shimmy, you're going to see the last project you worked on. If we go here to File and click New, because I've already saved it, don't do this if you haven't yet, click New, now it's gone. We've got a fresh document, no frame, just the one frame with nothing on it. We can go to File and Load, and go to Downloads where we downloaded. That may vary on your computer, but it's where I downloaded. Smilingface.svg, boom, we're back. We've got our whole animation going, and we've got all of our tools. We can go through all the frames and keep working. So we could add color, we could add more frames, we could make the face do other things. So let's take a look at what else we can do. So we have a few different tools here. So the first tool, actually let's start with a new file, and let's draw just a square. So I'm going to again make my pen size a little bigger. So I'm going to draw a rough square. All right. So that's the pen tool. We can also rotate, and when you rotate, it's going to rotate around the center of where you click. So if I click the center of the square, it rotates around the center. If I click the corner of the square, it rotates around the corner. So depending and it's going to rotate the whole page. So if you have two squares, for instance, let's go back to the pen. You have to pick where you're going to rotate. So if I rotate around the center of this square, the other square is also rotating around the center of that square. The next tool is Move. Move lets you just drag the whole paper around, basically. So everything on the paper is going to move on the frame. Zoom in will make everything bigger every time you click, and zoom out makes everything smaller. It also does this centered on where you click, and that can make a difference. So if I zoom in here, that will stay, the center of the square will stay where it is. But this square is moving off to the right as it zooms in. Now if I zoom out, clicking the center here, now you see everything has basically moved off in this direction because I zoomed in on the center of the square and zoomed out on the center of that square. And that can make a difference. So what can we do with these? Well, let's take a look. And again, do File, New. Let's try just using the Rotate tool. First the pen, so we have something to rotate. I'm going to draw a star. I didn't make my pen size bigger. Undo, make the pen bigger, draw a star. Okay. And you can draw whatever you want, any shape, but something besides a circle so we can actually see it rotate, because rotating a circle doesn't show us much. All right, now we're going to choose the Rotate tool, and we're going to click Copy. So we want an animation, we want lots of frames. So I'm going to make a number of these. Probably don't need this many, but make sure onion skinning is turned on. We're going to go back to the first frame. So they all look the same right now. And actually, and then we're going to, the first frame is fine. We're going to start with that, and then we go to Next. And we've got the Rotate tool selected. I'm going to click in the center of the star, and then just rotate it a little bit. And then go next and rotate a little bit more. And next, and rotate a little more. And just keep doing that. Click next and rotate each one to be a little bit more rotated than the last one. Just make sure you always start in the center or you're going to get some weird rotations. I'm going quickly. If you take your time, you can actually line them up so they're all rotated about the same amount each time. So mine are varying. When we play it back, it's not going to matter that much. One of the nice things about animation is when things are moving, people's brains fill in the detail. So you can make some little mistakes, and most people aren't even going to notice. Life is kind of like that. If you make lots of small mistakes, usually you can get away with it. It's the big mistakes that come back to bite you. All right, and we can keep doing this. I guess I could have rotated it a little faster. All right, and now we're at 17 of 17. Depending how many copies you made, you may have fewer frames or more frames than I have, and that's fine. Let's just take a look and see what it looks like once we've got all of our frames rotated, each by a little bit more than the last. And there it goes. I've got a little dancing star spinning around, bouncing a little bit because we didn't hit exactly the same spot for the rotation every time. It's fine. It looks good when it moves around a little bit. And it looks like somebody drew it. That's what I really like about this, is that even if we're copying the frames and moving them around, they still look hand-drawn because, or mouse-drawn, since I'm drawing with the mouse. But if you're on a tablet, then it's actually, sketching it out with your finger or a stylus. It is really hand-drawn. So, all right, what's next? So the next tool we're going to look at is the Move tool. But first things first, let's go to File. You can save these if you want. Feel free to. So if you're going to save it, make sure you save it before you click New. Once you click New, it is all gone. Then once you've saved, go ahead and click New. Start with a new document. We're going to switch back to the Pen tool. And so we're going to do Move. So let's try the bouncing ball. I know it didn't show up very well when I did the flipbook version with an actual physical flipbook, but maybe but we can get the idea across now. So draw a ball. My ball doesn't look very round, but hopefully you won't judge me too harshly on that. All right, so I'm going to copy it a bunch of times. We can draw every frame individually too. And for a lot of things where maybe you have somebody walking, you're probably going to want to draw each frame by itself. But where there's a lot of repetition in our animations, it can be useful to use the copy. If you want to just get a new frame that's empty and doesn't have any drawing in it, you would use the Add button instead of Copy. You can also copy and then hit Clear. It's going to do the same thing as hitting Add. So we're on frame 20 of 20 right now because I made 19 copies of the first frame. I'm going to go back to the first, then go next, and now I want the Move tool. All right, I'm going to move it down a little bit, maybe one ball's length, and kind of at an angle. So not straight down, but over a little bit. And then click Next, and move it down. Keep doing that. Now we don't have to go to the bottom of the page. We can decide at any point that that's the bottom where it hits the ground. And if you save it as a GIF, it's only going to make the GIF the size of all of the things in your animation. So however big it needs to fit everything you've drawn, that's how big your image will be. Next. And so I'm going to start moving it up again. Next. We could, because with the mouth, we wanted to copy the face, make all the copies of the face up front before we'd drawn the mouth in on any of them. With the ball, we could actually be copying each frame as we go, and then just moving it a little bit each time. And probably we'd have a better idea of how much to move it if we did that. It's not a bad way to go. And now, what happens when a ball bounces? Does it go all the way back up? No. It goes most of the way back up, and then it starts falling again. So let's start falling again. And kind of ease off, rise a little slower. And kind of hesitates at the top of the arc, and then starts falling again. Bounces up a little bit, but it's going slower now. Not as high. All right, that's 20. So now I'm just gonna, because I'm not quite done, I'm gonna copy and then just move that a little bit. Copy, move it a little bit, copy, a little bit. And there we go. So you can keep going, have it bounce a little less and a little less each time, but I think that's enough for me. Let's see what it looks like. Boing, boing, boing. There we go. Bouncing, maybe a rock. Looks more like a rock than a ball, but it's very bouncy for a rock. You can make whatever you like. Anything you are happy drawing. The rest of the tools are similar. We've looked at zoom in and zoom out. We'll do those more on another day. Clears only the frame that we're on. It removes anything, whereas file new deletes everything, all of the frames, and you just have one frame of a new document. Delete will delete one frame, adds an empty frame, and generally animations aren't long enough that you're going to need the stop button. Frames per second is how fast to play back your animation. So if you only have a few frames, you can make frames per second slower. It might be more jerky, but the animation will last longer. And if you do lots of very, very detailed small changes, then you can actually increase the frame rate. Video is usually about 24 frames per second. That's FPS here, frames per second. Whereas movies are generally 30 frames per second. So that gives you some idea. And then you can also pick different colors to draw with. Make my pen a little bigger again. You can pick any of the colors from the palette here. You can also pick a different palette. You can even change the background color. Maybe. There we go. And you can also just make any color. So we can use the color picker to pick a color. And if we, instead of clicking on color here, if I click on one of the palette colors, it'll save that for, so that we can grab it more easily if we want to. Why is that not working? All right. Color just brings up the whole color wheel. There we go. I don't know why black wasn't working there for a minute, but it seems to be back. What else? Lots more palettes. I think that is all the tools. This palette will clear all the tools out of your way, so you have more room to draw. And yeah, I think that is an introduction to Shimmy. So I hope that you've enjoyed this introduction to Shimmy and learning to create flipbook animations with it, and that you understand a little bit more about how animations work generally. Now, I'm going to give you a homework assignment for next time. So something to work on your own, a reason to use Shimmy, and feel free to use Shimmy anytime. You can always go to it, use it. The library will be hosting it, and your friends can use it. They don't have to take the course or watch the videos. They can just go in and try the buttons and see what happens. You can even show them how to do basics. So the homework is pick 2 things that you know how to draw. It could be an apple and a shoe, or a house and a flower, or a dog and a cat. But any 2 things that you feel comfortable drawing, that you like to draw or you've practiced drawing. And if you don't have 2 things, you can even just draw like a square and a circle, or a square and a star or something. And the goal is, over the course of 20 or more frames of animation, turn the first thing slowly into the second thing. So you're going to make small changes in each frame until one thing becomes the other thing. So it's a transformation animation. That's your challenge for the next week. I hope you have had fun. Thank you for joining us to this introduction to Shimmy, and I'll be back in 2 weeks to do some more. Have a great day.